Hey plant fam, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Jaclynn. This is my jungle, and if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you for still being here. So today I thought it would be fun to talk about 10 plant mistakes that you want to avoid making. So these are just really general things. David and I kind of sat down and had a little bit of a conversation about it and came up with this list. So I would love to know if you guys would add anything to this list once you have watched this whole entire video. So let's get into it. So these are going to definitely be more relevant for newer plant parents, and these are definitely things that I wish I had known, things that I wish somebody had told me to avoid when I first started growing plants. And these are definitely some of the more common things that you are going to hear when people are trying to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. So the first thing on my list that came into my head that I think is a really common mistake for people who are just getting into houseplants is uppotting the plant too soon or uppotting it into something that is just too big for the plant. So if you guys listen and pay attention to what I say, it doesn't really matter for the anthurium, but for pretty much every single other plant, this is going to be the case. So I guess when I first started growing anthurium, it just didn't really occur to me that I should be uppotting them a lot more than I was, because this first thing on the list here is usually the general rule. You don't want to upsize your pots more than a couple of inches when you are uppotting them, and you do want to make sure that that root ball both has enough space but also doesn't have too much space, because you can cause things like root rot and you can just stunt the growth of your plant. This is the case for Hoya, especially if you guys watch my Hoya care videos and the one that I just did that you guys have been enjoying about how to get your Hoya to grow better and faster. You definitely want to be mindful of the pot size, and when you go to up pot your plants, just make sure you're not potting them up too much, because most plants don't like it. Some plants like Hoya especially hate it. So I just don't want you guys to fall into that trap. I think it's a really common thing that people do. My mom does it all the time. Sorry, Mom, to call you out. Where like she'll just buy a pot that's pretty and want to put a specific plant in it, but that plant might not be the right size for that pot, or that pot might not be the right size for that plant rather. So again, the general rule of thumb is not to up pot more than an inch or two, or you could cause some serious problems for your plants. But of course, the soil matters too. So number 2 on my list of plant mistakes to avoid making is not amending your soil. So please, for the love of God, do not go and just buy like a big bag of Miracle-Gro and throw all your plants in there and think that that's fine. It might be. Trust me, there are anomalies. There are people out there who do all the things that you're not supposed to do, and their plants thrive. But essentially, you do want to make sure that you're tailoring your soil to the plant that you're growing. So most plants are not going to enjoy just being in straight soil without any perlite. I mean, most soils do come with a little bit of perlite in it, but a lot of the time I add in more perlite, orchid bark. People add in charcoal. I've got tons of videos on my channel talking all about my soil mixes and what I use for different plants. But in general, you do want to make sure that plants like aroids and Hoya have really nice, well-draining soil, and that it's a little bit chunkified. You don't want to have a really heavy, dense mix for your plants because the roots need to breathe. It's really, really important for air to be able to get to the roots of the plant. So if you are not adding anything to your soil, I would say that it's probably a good idea to start looking into that and tailoring it for whatever genus you are repotting. So obviously my soil mix is going to look slightly different from my anthurium to my Hoya to my monstera to cacti and succulents. Obviously, they enjoy something a little bit more sandy. So you do want to pay attention to the plant that you are repotting and make sure that you are tailoring your soil mix to that plant. And if you're not the type of person who wants to mix up their own soil, there are soils on the market that you can buy already pre-mixed. So it's really just a matter of finding something that works for you, finding something that works for your plants, works for your environment, works for your watering routine, and just making sure that you're not going to Home Depot and buying a bag of Miracle-Gro and planting every single thing in your home in there and thinking that it's going to be totally fine, because it might be totally fine, but I don't want you to accidentally kill your plants. It's really important, I think, in the beginning of plant parenthood to just set yourself up for success, because when you have a lot of failures in the beginning, it can be very discouraging and people can get this notion in their head that they have a black thumb, which is, it's not a thing. I hate to break it to you. Green thumbs, black thumbs, that's a myth. It's not a thing. It's all about experience and doing your research and learning as you go. We all learn. I've killed just as many plants as I've kept alive, and I've learned a lot in the process. So that is why number 2 on the list is to make sure that you are amending your soil. If you don't want to do that, then you can buy a soil mix that already has all that stuff in there for you. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have any suggestions. I know a lot of you like Molly's Aeroid mix. There's tons and tons of different options for you to choose from. I make my own soil just because I go through a lot of it. So I do buy all of the ingredients in bulk, and then I've got a big bucket here from Home Depot and I just mix it all up in there. So you can do whatever works for you. Just make sure that you are paying attention to the soil. Number 3 is inspired by my grandma because I got a phone call from her last week where she was like, "What's wrong with my orchid?" And I had to pick her brain about what she was doing. And she told me that she was using ice cubes to water her orchid. You guys, please don't use ice cubes to water your plants. I don't know why that's a thing. Plants don't like cold water on their roots, and a couple of ice cubes in your orchid is probably not enough water. So something I've learned recently about orchids is that their roots change color. They're like a little bit whiter when they're dry, and then when they are saturated, they're a little bit darker. So who knew? Nobody ever told me. Maybe I wouldn't have killed so many orchids. Now I gotta get a new one so I can try and know when to water it a little bit better. But you're not giving it enough water by just throwing a couple of ice cubes in there. You need to still thoroughly water your orchids. So really, in reality, number 3 is please don't listen to the care tips that are on like the little tags like these, where it tells you like how much sun and how to water it. And this one says water 1 to 2 times a week. Like, what does that even mean? You know nothing about my environment and whether or not this thing needs to even be watered 2 times a week. So just do me a favor and don't just disregard everything that's ever on any of these little tags, especially if it's a freaking orchid and it tells you to put some ice cubes in it. Also, the plants don't clean your air. They don't clean the air to the extent that they try to tell you they do on the tag. So I guess number 3, it was originally not to put ice cubes in your orchid, but honestly, it's kind of like just don't listen to what the tags in the store say about the plants, because they're usually not accurate and they're a lot of the time just like very general and just not helpful whatsoever. It's like, put it in bright and direct light. I'm sorry, but when I first started growing plants, I had no idea what that even meant. So they're not cleaning your air, and please don't put ice cubes in there. Just water it. Just water the orchid. Okay, so number 4 on my list is a very common mistake that I see people making all the time, because the succulents in the store, I get it, you guys, they're so cute. They're so cute. They make great gifts, but you have to make sure that you're putting them in enough light. So a lot of the time I see people buy succulents and then put them in their window that's like north facing, and I'm like, well, no wonder why it died or it got all stretched out and ugly. So if you are going to buy some succulents, please make sure that you have the right lighting for it. They need very bright light. They like that western exposure. Honestly, when I had west-facing windows in my last apartment, my succulents were thriving. A lot of them can handle direct light from the sun as well without burning. So just keep that in mind. Not that I ever recommend throwing anything out into the direct sun, because it probably will still burn unless it's a cactus. But if you're gonna buy succulents, you have to keep in mind that they are similar to cacti in the sense that they need very, very bright light. I can't even tell you how many times people have purchased succulents and put them like in their bathroom with the one little dinky window and then wondered why it never looked good. So if you have a low light bathroom, get a pothos, not a succulent. So number 5 on my list of plant mistakes that you should avoid making is one that I talk with other growers about really often, because I think that, and I was one of these people, I was really naive in the beginning of my plant journey, thinking that I would never have any pests. And that only ended up harming me because I wasn't doing anything to prevent pests. So number 5 on my list is thinking that you'll never get bugs on your plants, because that is, you're lying to yourself, and you're being unrealistic. And also, pests are not as scary and as stressful as people might think they are. It's nothing to panic over. But you certainly want to start taking preventive measures as soon as you start collecting more than just a few plants, because it's inevitable. It's unavoidable. They come in through your window. You can do everything right, clean, isolate, all of the things, and it still won't matter. You will still end up with some sort of pest at some point in time in your plant growing journey, and that's okay. That doesn't make you a bad plant parent. That doesn't mean you've done something wrong. The only thing that I encourage you to do, if you have not started yet in your plant journey, is to think about preventive care. You want to avoid a massive outbreak from happening. You cannot avoid pests altogether, but what you can avoid is them completely devastating your collection, especially something like the thrips. If you are not prepared to deal with something like the thrips and they come and they destroy your collection literally overnight, that's kind of on you. So what I do for preventive is a few different things. I use an all-natural systemic that is made with rosemary oil. It's called SNS 209. You can snag it on Amazon. And I also use beneficial bugs. Obviously, I don't use them at the same time. Typically in the cooler months, I tend to do the systemic. And then this time of year, when it's a little bit warmer, starts warming up, the bugs start getting a little bit more frisky. I like to use the predatory bugs. I get all of mine from Nature's Good Guys. I can leave that linked down below for you guys. I'm working on getting a discount code for you guys to be able to use on their website as well. So just stay tuned for that. When I do have it, I will share it with you. But make sure you are doing the things to prevent the bugs in the first place, which is also keeping your plants clean. You want to make sure you're cleaning the leaves regularly. Take them to the shower once in a while, rinse them off, wipe them down. Urban Gardener makes, this is not it, but they make a leaf radiance spray that I absolutely love because it does have like good stuff in there that'll take care of it, like any little buggies and things as well. So it works in multiple ways and I can't recommend it enough. I absolutely love their products. They just came out with a new liquid fertilizer that I'm excited to try as well. They're sending it over to me, so I'll let you guys know how I like it once I've tried it. So number 5 on my list is don't be naive. Don't be like me. Don't think that you're immune to getting pests, because then literally I got thrips and it was devastating and it was stressful and it would not have been as bad if I was taking preventive measures. So the next one on the list, number 6, kind of goes hand in hand with that one, and it is making sure that every single time you bring a new plant into your home that you are properly isolating it, cleaning it, treating it, checking it for bugs, making sure it's good before you introduce it to the rest of your collection. So what I do is I just keep them in my bathroom. David doesn't love it, but there aren't really any other places for me to keep them. So I will keep them in my bathroom for the first couple of weeks that I have them. I spray them down with 70% isopropyl alcohol and anything else that I feel is necessary. If I do have bugs on it, obviously I'm going to be isolating it for longer, but I do try to make sure that I am thoroughly cleaning the plant, thoroughly checking the plant, thoroughly just making sure that she's good to go hang out with the rest of the babes, because if she's got something wrong with her, she's going to spread it to everybody else. So make sure that every single time a new plant comes into your home, that it is not just going straight onto your plant shelves or in your cabinet with the rest of your plants. You're just kind of opening yourself up for issues by doing that. Now, normally it's a non-issue. I tend to buy my plants from people that I know have really healthy, solid plants and there's no pests. So this is really more for like the big box store plants and like the garden center plants and stuff like that. But you still just want to be really careful and make sure that you're thoroughly inspecting, thoroughly cleaning, thoroughly treating every single new plant that comes through your door. So number 7 is less to do with plant care and more to just do with the plant community. And that is making sure that you're not falling for the trends. Making sure that you are only purchasing plants and plant-related items that you really genuinely love and that you want, and that you're not just falling into the trap of buying something because somebody on Instagram told you to. So, you know, obviously if it's a great suggestion, like sometimes I've got really great product suggestions for you guys, that's a different scenario. But I think that it's really easy to fall into that trap, especially when you're newer to plants and you're still very excited about plants and you want all of like the really cool, rare, variegated, weird stuff. Just pump the brakes. I always encourage people to really think about whether or not they love that plant, or if it's something that you have just gotten in your head that you need it because everybody else is telling you that you need it. I definitely fell for this a lot in the beginning because it's hard to know your plant style. Like I didn't know what I liked and what was going to work well for me in the beginning of my plant journey. So it was a lot harder for me to discern whether or not this like rare, fancy, expensive plant was really going to be something that I ended up loving in the long term, or if it was going to end up being something that I got tired of looking at. And I did end up buying a lot of plants that I got tired of over time. And it took some time for me to learn what characteristics I really am drawn to about plants and which ones I really love more than others, so that I don't fall into that trap, so that I don't spend $500 on a rare variegated philodendron only to end up hating the way that it grows, or for it to just end up being like $20 2 years later. So you definitely just want to be mindful of whether or not you're being influenced to buy something, or if it's something that you genuinely want to spend your money on, because it's really not worth it to have a bunch of plants in your home taking up space when you don't really love them. Which honestly flows really nicely into the next one, which is not listening to the online influencers when it comes to plant care, and that includes me. Like, you can take my advice and you can look at what I'm doing, but always, always, always assess what is going to work for you, because what works for me might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for me. So I always tell people to take plant care tips and things like that with a grain of salt, because my way of doing things isn't the best way. It's just the best way for me. And I acknowledge that. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is the best way. This is the way you have to do it. I'm not going to lie to you guys like that. I just tell you how I do it. And if you want to try what I do and that works for you, amazing. But if you try what I do and that doesn't work for you, that's also totally fine. It's a process. You have to kind of do the whole trial and error thing before you can figure out like what actually genuinely works for you. There is no one size fits all care manual for plants. Like I said in the beginning of the video, people can do all of these things and still have plants thriving in their home, and I might not understand it. Like how my mom has a Dracaena that's planted into a pot that has no drainage and the soil looks like it's older than I am, and that thing thrives. There are exceptions to the rules. I always encourage people to learn the rules and then break them. Figure out what everybody else is doing and then tailor your care to what works for you. You can take inspiration from other people, but you don't have to exactly mimic somebody else's care routine or something that somebody tells you to do on the internet, especially if it's something as ridiculous as like throwing away your air purifiers because your plants are cleaning the air. You know? Okay, so we're gonna stop listening to the weird stuff that influencers tell you on the internet. Okay, so number 9 on the list is going back to some plant care stuff, and that's not fertilizing your plants. I can't even tell you for how long your girl didn't touch fertilizer, because I was actually genuinely terrified to fertilize my plants because I had heard so many horror stories of people over-fertilizing and burning their plants. So it took me a long time before I started feeling comfortable fertilizing. But what I can say to you, if you are in that same space where you're just like kind of on the fence about not really understanding fertilizer, start with something organic. Start with something very mild. I think I started with what's the company? It starts with an E. Espoma. I started with the organic Espoma, just like houseplant fertilizer. Kept it very, very simple. That's the only thing that I was putting in my water at the time. Now I have like 7 different things that go in my water, but you don't have to make it complicated. Just start with something gentle and organic that's not going to burn your plants. That's why I stay away from the synthetic fertilizers, because they are a lot stronger. And you're not going to really cause problems with the organic stuff. It's not as strong. And if you're extra worried, you can always use something like worm castings. You can just mix it into your soil. I did that a lot at first as well, if you're just uncomfortable with the liquid fertilizers still. So I do encourage you, however, if you do not feed your plants, to consider start feeding your plants, because it'll be fine for like the first year or 2, but eventually you will start to notice the plants just like either not growing as well. They might start yellowing a little bit and things along those lines. You just want to make sure that you're giving them the nutrients that they need and that the soil and the roots have access to that when they need it. So foliar feeding is also an option too. Obviously, I love my Urban Gardener Super Growth Elixir. You guys know plants do take in nutrients faster through their leaves than they do through the roots. So that's an option as well if you wanted to just start with some sort of foliar spray. But I do encourage you to start fertilizing your plants if you have not yet. And then number 10, you guys, last but not least on the list of things you want to avoid, mistakes you don't want to make with your plants, is following a strict watering schedule. I just water them when they need to be watered. You know, that's why I say these plant care things where it's like water it every 7 days or water it every 365 hours. Like, I don't know. I'm just making up a number. But you know what I mean. I just feel like there are a lot of people who are out there who are like, I water every Monday. And I'm like, that's great. Good for you. My plants don't all need to be watered at the same exact time. So what I do encourage you to do is just get like a little calendar. You can download an app on your phone. I group my plants and I just like keep in mind when I watered them last. So my Hoya get watered on a different schedule, my small anthurium and my big anthurium. So I have 3 separate groups that get watered at different times. So I do encourage you to just be flexible with your watering routine, because I think in the beginning it's very easy to overwater or underwater if you are being too strict with your watering schedule. The plant will let you know, and it does take time. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight, but over time you will be able to just look at your plants, feel your plants, observe your plants, and know what they need and when they need water. They will tell you. My anthurium especially are not shy. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that you have to be on a very specific watering schedule. Just water your plants when they need to be watered. Because a lot of times what can happen is you water the plant and then you come back a week later to water it again, and it might not need water again, or it might have needed water 3 days ago and now you're a little bit late. So you do just want to make sure that you're tailoring your watering schedule to what your plants actually need and not your schedule and what works for you. I mean, obviously, girl, if all you can do is water your plants on Monday because that's the only time that you have, that's fine. As long as your plants are getting watered, and then maybe just don't buy anything that needs to be watered more frequently, if that makes sense. So it's a learning process for sure. None of this stuff on the list is going to just happen overnight. These are all things that you kind of have to learn over time and feel out. There's no such thing as a perfect plant parent. There's no such thing as a perfect plant either. Sometimes they look bad, and that's totally fine. So I just think that it's really important for you guys to remember that it's okay. Like, it's totally okay to make mistakes. It's totally okay to just learn as you go and figure it out, and don't be hard on yourself about it. So these are hopefully some helpful tips for you guys. Hopefully you'll have even more helpful tips for beginners and plant mistakes to avoid in the comments below. So make sure you guys are always checking the comments. I love it when I see you guys like talking to each other. It makes me really happy. And I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it was fun and entertaining as well. I always enjoy tackling these topics with you guys. And if you enjoyed it, you should give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of that good stuff. My shirt today, too, is from Corey over at Rat Trap Artistry. It says, "We're a plant collector" on the front. And then in the back, I have my pink black velvet alocasia. I don't know if you can see it. But I love this shirt. I love this color. This is the like charcoal bleach color. I wear a size large or an extra large in the t-shirts because I do like for them to be a little more roomy and a little longer on me because I'm tall and I like a nice long t-shirt. So you guys should go and check her out over on Palm Street. I'll leave it linked down below. I've got a bunch of new stuff from her that I need to unbox, so stay tuned for that. I've got a ton of really fun like plant stuff off of Palm Street that I want to unbox with you guys. I've been hoarding packages of like a pile of packages. So we're going to open those together soon. And I'm very excited to see some of the new stuff that she sent me. So that is it for this video, fam. If you watched this whole entire thing, leave me some ice cube emojis. In honor of my grandma and her orchid that is hopefully doing better now that I told her to just water it regular. But I love you guys so very much. I hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are out there in the world. And I also hope that I see you in the next one. Bye.